Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight. As Becca mentioned, my name is Megan Moore, and I have over 22 plus years of experience in the field of special education and public education, ranging from roles as paraprofessional, teacher, consultant, and then program specialist and administrator. So I'm really glad to be here with you tonight. Many of you out there are already familiar with our academic solution here at N2I called Unique Learning System. Prior to joining N2I over 3 years ago, the district that I worked in, we had utilized Unique Learning System in over 50 of our classrooms to really ensure quality access and engagement in differentiated grade level content. And so what we found as a district that when we were consistently implementing Unique Learning System, we saw definite growth and engagement with our students. It was really interesting. Some of the teachers, as they got more familiar with Unique Learning System, had even noted that before they started using it, that they may have never even attempted to try to teach many of the concepts and content that were provided in Unique Learning System because they were unsure if the students were going to grasp those concepts. And what they found, and they were often amazed by, is that the students not only engaged in the learning, they retained a ton of that information. They saw firsthand how engaging students in that high quality, consistent content and raising that bar on expectations impacts that student learning and growth. And really, when we think about special education, that's what it's all about, right? Is we are tasked with how do we provide high quality instruction and ensure that we're raising those expectations for our students for now, as well as building towards that path of independence. So many of you who use Unique Learning System see there are so many great tools that are built into Unique Learning System in order to help teams to measure student growth and progress, including things such as the profiles, the benchmark assessments, the checkpoints, core rubrics, many different pieces that help measure progress, as well as information you gain through student daily performance related to Unique Learning System activities. So in our district, which I suspect is true many of yours, we often would wish, as we were using Unique Learning System and all these great tools, that there was something available to us that could help bring all of that important information and data into our students' IEP. Because, we would bring it in, but it was oftentimes took time for us to go in and add that information into the IEP. And so we'd always be asking questions of ourselves and thinking out loud, like, wouldn't it be great if there was a tool that could help streamline that process and make it easier for us to be able to take all that great information from Unique Learning System to engage into that IEP process. So, and that's why we're here tonight, is there is a tool that does that. There is a solution that does this. And that is one of our newest solutions here at N2I called Polaris. Polaris does just that. So Polaris is our collaborative solution that assists your team in developing and implementing IEPs throughout the process. So when we use Polaris in conjunction with Unique Learning System, Polaris really streamlines that IEP process to help you build those high quality, compliant educational plans for your students, which uses that data from those assessments and all those learning activities that you're doing on a daily basis with your students in Unique Learning System. So when you pull these two solutions together to help your team as you're planning and writing those IEPs, Polaris dynamically brings in data from Unique Learning System, from profiles such as the K-12 student learning profile, self-help profile, preschool profile, transition profile, from those benchmarks and those rubrics to help drive targeted suggestions for goals that your team can consider for that student's annual IEP, as well as accommodations and modifications to support that student's access in the general curriculum. And all of those are based on your student's performance. So not only does Polaris help to dynamically use that data from Unique Learning System, it also helps to automate that process of building an accurate and a compliant present level of performance. That's often an area, as teams, it's such an important piece of the IEP, and yet sometimes it can be one of the hardest areas for teams to write. And so Polaris is doing the work for your team and preparing all that important information to really gather a complete picture of where your student is presently functioning, and then also to help drive what those goals and supports that student is going to need for that IEP year. So again, saving you much needed time and energy in building those pieces. In addition to that, we oftentimes, our teachers would wonder, like, support with goals and writing goals, and what goals do I choose? So in addition to driving suggestions for goals, Polaris helps teams to write SMART goals and objectives from those suggestions, or you can also do that from scratch, but those are going to align to your students' present level as well as to their extended standards. Again, making that focus on student growth and on measuring their progress that much easier. Once you implement the IEP, Polaris will help provide that visual representation of your students' progress and their trajectory of learning. So Polaris helps your team to make those data-driven decisions based on your students' performance that is going to help you decide, is that student learning and making progress towards that goal so that they can meet it by the end of the IEP? If they're not, what type of instruction or supports might we need to put in place or adjust in order to support that learning? So in Polaris, you can add data quickly by itself, but the other great part when we're thinking about partnering together with Unique Learning System and Polaris is that you can add data from the daily Unique Learning System activities that your students are completing. You can add that if they're related to goals, you can add that data as goal data, which again is streamlining that process even further and really integrating their everyday learning, routine learning into that data collection process. So again, better together, those two solutions help support and help make that process that much easier for your team. Another thing to note when we think about both of those solutions together is that you can access suggestions for N2I materials from Unique Learning System or even other N2I solutions that can help your team in providing that instruction and that skills practice for your students related to those goals. Again, further garnering the power of the different solutions that you have access to. So at the core of Polaris is team collaboration. There are collaborative tools that allow teams in your team to focus your attention on student learning across all stages of that IEP process. This again is going to strengthen your team communication as well as stakeholder engagement and participation in that IEP process, which we know is so important when we're supporting unique learning or unique learners across their learning journey. So in summary, keep in mind both ULS and Polaris, they do work better together. Remember that Unique Learning System provides that specially designed instruction and access to the grade level content, while Polaris helps your team to integrate that key student performance and assessment data to drive your students' present levels, the goal selection, as well as resources that are going to align with that student's extended standards and grade level expectations. So all of these pieces help your team to track progress and ensure achievement of your students' goals, which lead to great student outcomes. So thank you so much for letting me share some of the many ways in which both Unique Learning System and Polaris work better together. I hope you have a great night.